It's good, people. Happy New Year. Happy New Year, everyone. What's going on, Peter? Adam, Wally, Holly. Happy New Year, everyone. Siobhan. Quick little live before the new year. Oi, yo. Yeah, a few too many. So we're going to be having hard rock leopard geckos on today. We're going to have to do the 5-minute bit at the start, get people on, get Pabs on. I'm pretty sure you'll be on in a minute. Just got some questions for Wally, hearing his experiences, how it all started, getting to know more about Wally himself. Brilliant live to do before the new year. Really excited for this one. As always, people, put your questions and your comments in below. We're going to have this run for about an hour because of, what is the time now? It's going to be New Year's Day for us in 50 minutes in the UK, so big one. Get Pabs on. There he is. Dan's had too many drinks. Happy New Year, Molt. Give it a couple of more minutes and then we'll get Wally on. Yeah, look at old Pabs. Come here, mate. You scruff ball. Yeah, he's cute, he's cute. 0 beers, Dan. That's good, Thomas. Good to see your reptile room coming together, mate. Bradders, what's going on, Bradders? Happy New Year to you as well, mate. As normal people, if you see me looking down and stuff, is got the questions here. And I normally read the question ahead, if that makes sense, so I know what to ask. So you ever see me looking down, I'm not being rude, as I'm looking at this or scribbling something on this. Now, he's trying... Pablo, the time's not right now, mate. Happy New Year, James. Keep an eye on the time here, so I know when to get Wally on. Give it another minute and then we'll get Wally on. Leonard, good to see you, mate. Good day. Nate's Geckos, what's going on, mate? Right, anyway, guys, we're going to get Wally in. Like I said before, we've got some questions down that you guys have submitted to ask Wally. We're going to learn more about Wally, hear about his experiences. I'm pretty sure he's got loads to talk about. Just a little live, a little podcast before the new year. So we'll get Wally in right now. So let's invite him. So Wally, if you're watching this, it will say Elite Geckos has requested you to join this live or something like that, and you just smash that and it'll bring you straight in. There we go. Hello, mate.
Hello, George. Great
How
to
you
be
doing?
on. Great. Finally, I think we took us 3 or 4 tries to finally get the time right for us to make it happen, and that's just how
I'm
life
known
goes.
for being a late guy. I'm known for it. we finally got it. Anyway, how have you been? Did you have a good Christmas?
Christmas was great. I spent it with my sister, and we had great lunch and dinner. So we did 2 double Christmas meal. We had the traditional American Christmas dinner with ham, and being Asian, we also had some a second meal with Asian food. So that's so it was a wonderful Christmas. How about yours?
Yeah, just your typical traditional English Christmas, you know, big buffet of food. I know Peter from PM Geckos, he's a fellow American, and he was like, it's my first traditional English Christmas meal. It's amazing. You guys have had weird stuff like cheesy leeks. But yeah, amazing. I'm a Christmassy person. I love getting family together and all sitting around the table, because when you get older, you and your siblings, you don't always sit down and have a meal. Do you know what I mean? So it's nice to get everyone together.
Oh yeah, that's what the holidays are about, right? The people, the family, and when you can, for us having this, and my job makes it great being a teacher, having a couple of weeks off. So my wife is also a teacher, so with the little one at home, we've had now 2 weeks together.
Mm.
So together, we're not sick of each other.
Yeah, it must be hard for you at the moment then with COVID and everything. And I'm assuming, what sort of teacher do you do? You like a school teacher or?
Yeah, I'm a we call high school teacher. That's usually the ninth year to the 12th year. I think in England you guys go up to, remember speaking to one guy, go up to 15 or 16, then you go into either higher education or job training. But
That's
I
right.
yeah, I teach high school literature, so which is the ninth to the 12th year, um, and that's a big job. Really, it's teaching literature, teaching reading, teaching writing. So I'm usually out of the house about 7 in the morning, and then school goes from 8 something, 8:30ish until 3 o'clock, and then I'm also the tennis coach. So I'm usually there until 6 o'clock or sometimes 7 o'clock before I get home. It's like 8 o'clock. So these are long days. So that's sort of one of the reasons why when we were trying to make the schedule to be on live was a challenge. And those are
Yeah.
just, you know,
You must really enjoy what you do then, because if you to do all that teaching, and obviously you've got to come back and you've got to deal with your leopard geckos as well.
yes, that's this year the leopard gecko's been I've expanded a lot, so it's taken a lot more time than I expected. So you don't know what it's like until you're thrown in the fire. So I've had to get up an hour early in the morning to do some feeding. I've had to stay up an extra hour or two later to do some feeding and cleaning. So yeah, I'm usually up about 5 a.m. and some nights I'm not in bed until 11 or midnight after all the feeding and cleaning. So, but in a way, we're like a parent to these little babies.
Yeah,
They depend on us to care for them, and so being a parent, myself, with real human kids, you sort of know, like, hey, you have to do what it takes, and whatever it takes is what you have to do, no matter what. So if I don't put in the time to feed them, they go hungry. You don't want little kids
definitely.
to go hungry.
Yeah, this is why I think leopard geckos are a great pet for kids as well, because it gives them something to, like, life skills almost. Like, we got to look after this thing. You got to feed it. You got to water it. You can't just walk away from it, sort of thing. It shows them sort of life skills.
Oh, certainly, yes. Well, I when I teach, I'm always about even if it's literature, whether it's literature or coaching tennis. Always, it's about teaching them through the vehicles of whatever you're doing.
Mm,
You teach them about life. And I don't know if you guys know about the movie The Karate Kid.
yeah,
And so, in the movie, the teacher always say, karate is everywhere, because the idea, whatever you learn through karate, and it doesn't matter if it's a karate, if it's breeding leopard geckos, if it's tennis, everything teaches you about, like you said, discipline,
yeah.
responsibility, how to deal with problems, so those are all great things you can learn to improve yourself as a person to face life.
Yeah, definitely. So with your teaching, do you? I know we briefly spoke about it. Do you incorporate your breeding, or, like, for example, I can imagine if I was like a science teacher and I was teaching, let's say, sex education or something, I could use the leopard geckos as an example. Like, here's a female leopard gecko and a male leopard gecko. This is what happens. Do you do that sort of thing? Do you bring it in
Uh,
with your teaching?
Yeah, I don't purposely do it. Whatever I'm teaching, I'm always, I think the content itself is not necessarily easy for kids to understand. So sometimes in education, we have a thing we call KWL. What do you already know for the K? What do you want to learn? And things like that. So without the prior knowledge. And so I always try to bring in outside information. If the kids can understand this real life information, then they can make the leap sort of to say, to understand the concept I'm teaching. So it's kind of like you can't run until you learn to walk. So I have to figure out what the gap in knowledge the kids have that I need to fill in that gap. And sometimes it just bring in fun information from the outside, from the real world for the kids to connect. Then they can have an interest and want to learn. So so I don't purposely do it because I try to keep myself professional, sort of keep up that wall that I don't want to get too personal with the kids. And it just, it wasn't that way when I was growing up as a student, but now it is. If you get too close, the kids know too much about you. They look up your Instagram, then they hear the principal something that you never know what you're posting that they might just think is inappropriate. So I sort of have to be careful, but I do. It's from time to time, and I don't want to make my classroom to promote my leopard gecko breeding business. So, but when I put in the techniques and the number of times that the community, that's the one thing that's been great about this leopard gecko breeding community is the people. And I talk about, when we talk about like team, when we talk about working together, and the way in this community we all ask questions and we share and we learn from each other. So I've that up. So that is the one thing I've learned. Not learned, but realize about this leopard gecko community is people are just great. Despite when I first came in about on social media about 2 years ago when they talked about all the bad stuff with Facebook and things like that. But there are always good and bad, but I'm going to say mostly good out there. It's been really good.
Yeah, no matter what you do, the same with you. I know you can't say it on camera. You always get bad apples anywhere in life. You always will have your selective few. It's just that no matter what you do, whether you're a footballer or whether your hobby's cars, you're always going to have that negative side to whatever hobby you get into.
Right, and you bring up the negative, and that's the one thing I'll throw out. I'm known for my life lessons, and the one thing I tell people is think about how long you may want to do something like a job, for instance. In America, people retire at 65. And I said, before you pick a job, just jump into it. Take your age, subtract it from 65, and think about the job you want to do, and think about the worst thing. And if you have to do that every day, would you want to do it? And so that's, like you said, there's a negative to everything and we kind of have to look ahead for it, to be prepared for it, to learn how to deal with it, and accept it as is, because not everything is the glamorous moment in holidays, right?
Yeah, that's it. Anything that doesn't have any work isn't worth working for. And like you just said, if you don't, it's similar with you, like you said, with the work. If you don't enjoy your work, what's the point working, doing that job sort of thing? But same with the leopard geckos. Like you just said earlier, you do all these hours teaching, which must be draining with COVID as well, looking after your own kids and then coming back to look after your leopard geckos as well. You have to do that if you love it. You couldn't do that if you didn't love it.
Right, exactly. Everything has its challenges, and like you said, if you truly love it, you'll do it. And because I work with teenagers, and teenagers often experience their first love, and I take that same concept and I say it's the same as picking your wife or husband. Take the average lifespan is 72 for a man, so take the male and subtract his age from 72, and take the female's age and subtract from 78. Now think about the worst thing about that person, and if can you live with it for how many years? So I sort of approach life that way. Sometimes it's not that I don't have passion, I don't have love, but I think number one is reality is there are these challenges, and if you truly love it, you're willing to deal with those challenges, you know, and get through it.
Totally agree. Totally agree. So, how did this all start for you? How did all the leopard gecko breeding start for you? Did you just stumble across it? Would you like me and many other breeders, where we got our first one as a pet, and it sort of took on from there? How did it all start for you?
You know, I've watched a number of your shows, and I know this is a common question. And so when I watch these shows, I think about it, and I'm going to just say it's sort of funny, but I think it's my fourth midlife crisis why I started breeding. And I say that I've always been keeping myself busy doing something. I guess until a few years ago, I recognized that it's probably I just want to learn more about something, improve upon myself, expanding myself, and it was 2019. So when I started my first season of breeding, and I really only had 5 geckos, and they were pets. And I had thought about breeding, but I really was too busy because right before that, I was a personal tennis coach for a touring junior player, and she was national level player, so kept me quite busy. I was working about 25 hours a week with her. And so, but when things didn't work out, and when we split apart, I just found myself with all this time. So what do I do? How am I so busy? And so I guess it's kind of like any type of breakup is you feel this hole in you. How do you feel? You know, so, and I thought about, and I've kept bearded dragons and leopard geckos for now about 8 years. But I had already been keeping them for about 5 years. So when that time came, and I said, you know, let me start. And I just had 3 females, which were just trempers that I kept to breed. And when I took it on, I even looked ahead that I did so few, I wasn't even thinking about selling. I would just, I wanted to, it was that first year was to go through the physical act of what it's like to do all the things you do. And I'm one of those who's a heavy reader. I read up books, a number of books. I read up dozens of websites on all the things you do. And no matter how much you read, until you go through it, there's still something that's just not in the books. So I was really glad that first season that I took it as not about breeding and selling, just breeding to go through the act. So it was great. I didn't have too many babies to deal with, but I learned to, you know, the incubation issues, the egg issues, and all these things that, you know, like I said, they're not in the book. So maybe there should be a book out there, not just how to do it, but with all the problems you deal with, you know.
That's like anything in life, though. Anything you do, there's always something that's missing, and you have to learn by doing it yourself. For example, I do building work, and I do plastering and decorating. You can read 1,000 books about plastering, but the only one way to learn is when you grab that trowel and you try it yourself. So the same with leopard gecko breeding. You can read so many books, but until you get breeding, you're getting your vermiculite, your ratios, it all learns when you do. I'm dyslexic, so with me, once I actually get my hands involved in something and try it, that's when I start to learn. I can read things, and it will just keep mumbling in my head until I get my hands involved. Then it all starts coming to me. If that makes sense.
Oh yeah, certainly. I can even imagine a job like plastering where this angle, that much pressure, that much less pressure, and you know, it's the same as when I coach tennis and when I work privately with people, I can't just tell them this is how you hit a forehand, because in real play, an opponent can hit the ball high, hit the ball low, hit the ball left, hit the ball right, a millimeter this way, millimeter that way. So there's a number of situations, really just a ball to deal with. So it's the same with breeding leopard geckos. And I think, you know, going through the questions, I know somebody always asks, like, what's the advice? And I think the advice is be prepared for the unexpected, because it's always going to come, right?
Yeah, 100%. So what has your experience been like starting out in the hobby? I know for me it was quite tricky. I don't know whether it's like an age thing. With me, when I first started, it was almost like I wanted to be not recognised, but I wanted the good breeders to almost accept me in a way. So did you experience anything like that when you started out? Was there any sort of negative, or did you sort of keep it to yourself and you bred some geckos and...
Oh, certainly all of that, and I'm one of those people that I'm usually a low-key person, and about halfway, a few months in, I found myself caught up in, I'll just say, all the stuff that was out there, despite being a low-key person. And no matter what, it's sort of, you're right, you want to be recognized, and there's so many aspects to breeding, and I think people really need to ask themselves, what is their purpose? There's no right or wrong way to do it, as long as you do it the right way for your purpose. And and I was breeding to breed, and of course there are extra babies and say, well, you could start selling. So once you start getting to the selling, then when I started researching about that, then you're right. The word out there is always buy from reputable breeders. I'm like, well, how do you get to be reputable? It's one of those catch-22 things where even if you buy geckos from the best breeder out there and you use them to breed beautiful, amazing babies, you're still not a reputable breeder, even if the geckos are coming from reputable breeders. And then you get caught up in, okay, how do I get recognized? And I actually was already breeding for a season and a half until somebody told me, like, hey, you should be on Instagram. You got to take pictures. And I'm already 47 years old at the time, and so not really that much into social media. So it was a thing. I had my daughter set up my Instagram account so I can learn how to take pictures, how to post it. And I thought in the very beginning, well, I just post once a week. Then you see Instagram advice out there. Well, you have to engage. You have to be active, posting. I started doing that. And you have to do this to be for the algorithm, to get followers, and I went through all of that until in the very end. I will just say, as I said earlier, it's nothing against people who do it. I just have a busy life where I'm out and work and doing things for 12 to 14 hours a day. That, like, how much time do I really have to go through all the followers and all the postings, then try to post 2-3 times a day as they recommend? And it was it was just exhausting. So, but I've made it I'm one of those structured and routine kind of people. So I've made it like a certain amount of time I have just to get on, do my post, go through, and and then just, I got to make the time to take care of the babies, and more importantly, myself and my family, the people. I don't want to say the animals are not important, but if I can't take care of myself, then can't take care of the babies, right? That's how it goes.
That's it. You made a very valid point earlier, actually, and I really liked it about the reputable breeders bit. How, like you said, how do we all start? Like, oh, that person isn't a reputable breeder, I wouldn't get it from them, but they bought 2 geckos from Steve Skies, but still, he's not reputable, I'll be careful. But like you said, how do you start? We all start somewhere. Do you know what I mean? So there's this level where it's like you sort of get trapped. So I did when I first started. I felt trapped, but I like that you brought that up, because I know there'll be a lot of new people watching this almost feeling the same, because I know I get a lot of people that hit me up and say, oh, thanks for saying that, like almost feel like I put myself in your guys' shoes, sort of thing. But yeah.
Well, this is my 3rd year breeding, and I still consider myself a new breeder. And I will say, I don't even want to call myself a breeder. I would say I'm a person who breeds, because man, I think to be a person, a real breeder, how much experience, knowledge do you really need? You must have to really be at that level to say you're a breeder, because it's kind of like in restaurants, right? Are you just a cook in a diner, or are you a chef in a 5-star restaurant, sort of thing? So, but in the very beginning, I know I bought some nice bolt. Somebody recommended getting 2 bolt stripes, and I got my group, and they looked amazing, and I didn't know about whether a person's reputable or not. And then somebody said, where'd you get them from? They're gorgeous. I was getting people inquiring about my geckos until they find out like, well, it's this, and they don't know. And I just try to trick myself to believe like, you know what, it's fine because in the end, even the reputable breeders take a chance on something, right?
Yeah.
If you think
Yeah.
about it, all new geckos that come out, somebody's got to take the chance with it to say, hey, this looks great, and to be able to take it further to develop a name. So I tricked myself into that. Like I said, even some people look at me long, so I know so much. I know so much. I know so much because of life experiences that have helped me understand things a little better and easier. But in the end, it comes down to it. When I first got in as a 46-year-old guy, talking to people, and they're like, "Oh yeah, I'm 17, I'm 18." These young kids, I'd say, were light years ahead of me in this field. So I wouldn't say it's humbling because as a teacher, one of the philosophies I have is to be a good teacher, you have to be a good student. Because if you don't understand how to student, you can't be a good teacher, you know.
Yeah. Every day's a school day for all of us. We learn something every single day. We might not realise it, but every day we all learn something.
Oh, certainly,
You
yes.
probably learn stuff off your students. Boy, one of your students come in and go, "Oh, sir, I watched this. This is what I learned." And you're like, "Oh, I learned that. I didn't know that."
Because of my philosophy and belief in what learning is, I'm always looking for that. My son, who's 10 years old, is out there playing tennis now. And then when I work with him, um, I can learn from him because there's, some things just aren't the same if you don't look at it from a different angle. And because, so sometimes like when some people out there discount the newer, younger people, and I said, hey, they could see something differently, and you could learn from that. And so every day I am learning from my student. I tell my students that when they point something out, hey, oh yeah, like I see it. So she needs to learn from my students because I'm like,
You still? Can you see me? You still there? I don't think Wally can see. Can everyone see me? Everyone viewing this live, can you still hear me? Can you still hear me, Wally? Can you still hear me? Can you guys still hear Wally as well? Can you hear me, Peter? Can you hear Wally? Oh, let me see. I think Wally might have clicked mute. Look at him calling someone. Let me type this. Have you clicked mute, Wally? Worst case, we can shut it down, reopen it. I can't hear Wally. All right, let me invite him back. I bet he's stressed. Bless him. He's calling. There we go. Can you hear me?
right, okay, I think I'm sorry about that.
That's all right, mate. No worries. Where was we? I can't hear him again.
All right, here we go. Sorry about that.
There we go. There we go. I can hear you now. Can you hear me?
Oh, yes, I can hear you, George.
Oh, No worries, mate. No worries. All good?
Yes, I think so. Yes.
Yeah, there's a very slight delay with me speaking and coming back to you, I think, but we'll work around it. I can't remember where we was at. If you remember, if you remember, I know it shuffled quite far in.
Oh, that's okay. Wherever we are, we can plow forward and it's fine. I'm sure we'll come back to it.
No worries. What's the best advice you can give somebody starting out in this hobby?
The best advice I think I mentioned earlier is to be ready for all the. Don't expect things to go exam, and I be ready for that. But I think the guiding model may be um, know your purpose for breeding. Are you? And what I mean by that is, I think it's hard to know the purpose.
I think we lost Wally again. What's going on, Aaron? I think it's yeah. I think it's a Wi-Fi thing we've got an issue with here. It could. Do you know what, Thomas? It could be all the fireworks and everything. It's what's the time now in the UK? It's 20 to 12. So yeah. Uh, let me re-invite Wally. Let me give Wally a minute. Let me give Wally a minute. Just it might be Wi-Fi. I know there's fireworks and everything going on at the moment. So there we go.
Okay,
There we go. It could be with all
I
the
think
fireworks and everything, Wally. It could be interfering with the
oh
with the connections because I can hear
yeah
all
no
fireworks over going on over here.
I mine, so I've gone ahead and just moved right next to my router. So anything might to help. So I think the last question you asked about the advice
Yes, the best
and I
advice you'd
just
give
said
someone starting.
yeah, and it's to know their purpose. And I think without saying the different purposes, people who come in breeding often just think, well, I'm going to make babies. But why are you making babies? Is it to create a new morph? Is it to sell? You know, is it just to do it as a hobby?
Mm,
You know, without the emphasis, without any emphasis on creating anything or selling, you know. So, I mean, those are three that's off the top of my head, and I think knowing which one would guide what one person is, how they're going to go about it. Because if you're going to go in to make money, I think people need to realize it's very hard to make money,
mm,
and you have a certain volume to make enough.
yeah,
So otherwise, making money you know, then people say they want to. Oh, I've heard from so many young breeders. I want to create my own morph, and I think realistically, and some of them don't understand. They could take 5 to 8 years of work into something just to get somewhere,
yeah,
you know. And over the years, in just in the 3 years, I've seen so many people as new Instagram followers come on to breed and then disappear a few months later. So, but I think people need to know why they're coming in to do it, and then be ready to take it on full speed, whatever they can. And I'll just say, as one of the things is, I've been lucky as a 47-year-old guy who's been working my career for 20 some years that I make great money. I earn a living that I can pour money into my hobby. You know, in the last, I've been lucky to do that. And I've heard so many people like, life's hard when you're a 20-year-old just working a low wage job, trying to pay rent and just think about buying geckos. So these are things that people really need to think about. So, you know, a great book, someone someone to work on would be something like, before I got married, my wife and I went through a book together called 1,001 Questions to Ask Before You Get Married. And essentially, it was all those issues and things you could ask each other, and we asked and we talked about it. I think someone really can make some money off of it if they get out there and say, hey, what are the 1,001 questions to ask before you start breeding?
But yeah, I think that's perfect advice to give. Is don't go rushing into anything. Always think ahead. I know, like when I first got into breeding, if I bought a gecko that hadn't produced any eggs yet, she wasn't a proven breeder, I'd think, oh, okay, I'm only going to get 6 eggs. But you never know. That gecko could go on to produce you 8, 10, 12 eggs. And a lot of new breeders, they go out, they get excited. I was excited. I was on all the websites. We've got something called Pre-Loved here in the UK. I don't know whether you have it in USA. It's almost like a Craigslist. I've been searching leopard geckos every day and almost formed an addiction. So I always say, slow down, work with what you like. So if you like Max Snows, it can be the best Max Snow. It can just be your normal standards. Work with what you enjoy. I had a conversation with DC Geckos, the guy who created the copper morph, and he said to me, what is a shit gecko? Sorry to any kids watching this. What is a rubbish gecko? There isn't.
Right. Oh, exactly. And the one challenge is, just like life, so many unexpected things may come. No matter how you look ahead, and even the advice of work with what you really like is hard, because who knows whether it's, do you know enough about leopard geckos to be able to pick a gecko morph that you truly would like, or is it the craze that's out there, like the black knights that, I've heard so many people, I want to get a black knight, I want to get a black knight, and what do they really know about it? Or is it just a craze that's sort of influencing them to say this is what they like? So, and it's hard. It's the same as a teacher. Like I mentioned earlier, before breeding, I was working with a tennis player, and this amazing young girl I was working with. Every day I worked with her, teaching her something. I also learned something, and because she was such an amazing player to be able to do amazing things. Because she was able to do it, it allowed me to see other things in tennis I wouldn't have seen, because I'd never seen somebody do something to. It's kind of like you open one door and there's another 2 or 3 doors kind of thing. So you learn one thing, there's 2 or 3 new things to learn. So it's the tip of the iceberg metaphor, so to speak. So it's kind of like when people say, this is what I really like. I've heard a number of new breeders this year alone that they want to get this, they want to get that. They get it. A few months later, they want to sell it, because they learn something about it and say, oh, so I think taking it slow is the key to be able to really enjoy every bit of whatever you want to work with, and let that take you, because so many young breeders are just listening to what's out there, and they're moving left and right like a pin. So I've seen that a lot this year.
I think it comes down to natural human behavior as well. It's like, for example, clothing brands. Everyone wants the Jordans, everyone wants the Nikes, but in reality, they're all the same. You could buy a pair of trainers that ain't a brand, but they're all the same. So everyone always goes for these black Knights, and like you said, they'll get a 1.3 group, and then next thing you know, oh, they're for sale. It's like, did you want to work with them? Was it just the name that drew you in? And I think a lot of the time, I think a name does draw people in. For example, I'll be going through Facebook and I'll see a crazy tangerine, and it's just been put a new name on it. It might just be the name of the gecko, given a funky name, and I'll be drawn in. Even I am. I just think it's natural human, like, oh, I want it. So I just think that just comes to the natural human behavior. But like you said, take your time. It's no rush. Leopard geckos, you cannot rush. You cannot rush animals. You can't rush nature. Just take your time. Anything could happen. You might have a female, you've fully invested in it, you've imported it, etc., and she hasn't laid you any eggs. It just happens. Unfortunately, this hobby, we work with animals and we can't judge them.
Right. And when you say take your time, it's I remember 1 year ago when a particular gecko I got, it's a red diamond crossed with a white yellow tremper, and I said I love the red diamond. Ever since I saw it, I loved it,
Mm,
and this was the close for me to get one. And I thought like, well, because I'm in love with it, I want to produce something. And I remember one night I could not sleep. I was up, I think, planning for what I want to do for the next 5 to 8 years to create my own version of it, and how many years of line breeding and cross breeding I had to do. And then yeah, I've let that go. And I've gotten different geckos. I, I still have those geckos with different plans, but just in a matter of months, like I thought I was going to do something for 8 years and let it go. So, um, and that's because when once I learned more about each morph and what's in them and what they do, then that changed. So I need to be people who are coming into the breeding hobby need to be like you said, slow it down. And there are things you don't know, that may change your mind.
definitely, definitely. Like we keep saying, every day's a school day. I was the same with the red diamonds as you. As soon as I saw one, I was like, I have to get one. And when the day I got one, I was so happy. And I crossed it this season to copper, and for me, the results have been amazing. For a fellow person working with red diamonds, do you still fully love the line? What else have you crossed it in? Because I want to learn. I want to know what other people cross red diamonds to, because of I know sometimes with crossing lines, especially tangerine lines, you sometimes get mediocre sort of offsprings. You might get one or two that hatch fire. But yeah, what have you worked in with the red diamonds so far?
The only thing I've done is I got a pair of 1.1 of red diamond cross with a white yellow tremper, and I just bred it. And this season I did a lot of pairings, and it was more for me to see what the babies look
Mm,
like, to see what the development looks like. And it was more just learning. And so they came out looking great, and all I did was reproduce to see what they looked like from day one to a few months. I've kept a few. But I did get a pair of pure red diamonds, and I'm looking. Um, the thought right now is I want to take that with a firebolt
mm.
because of the origin of both, with the from the Italian breeders with the tangerine and bold or bandit line that they started with. So they both have that starting point. So that got me curious, like, you know what, let me see. So I want to do like a firebolt version of a red diamond tangerine tremper.
Very
Let's see what
nice.
that
A lot of this,
uh,
what we do is, I know we have to make sure they're genetically good. Like you obviously will pair a tremper to a tremper, not to a bell. But a lot of it is seeing what happens. Like let's see that could in our visions we'd be like, right, okay, that this could really work. A lot of it's trial and error. A lot of people don't realize. A lot of us breeders are just experimenting almost.
right. And with that said, I think that's another tip for young breeders. Even if you get the two best geckos together, and a you could have some gorgeous babies, but not all of them are going to hit.
Mm,
I think some of them think like a, a gorgeous pair, and they're going to get 6, 8, or 10, however many babies, and they're all going to be fire. And in the end, really, like from experience with all my pairings this year, I would say what I'm if 50% of them look amazing, I'm hitting it pretty high.
mm.
So I think that's the one thing a lot of the young breeders also need to know. That's my experience, is like not all of them are going to look amazing, right?
Yeah, yeah,
From
definitely.
clutch, they're going to within the same clutch, the two babies may come out totally
Totally
different.
different. Yeah,
So
that's the beauty. That's what I love about it. Is I've also hatched stuff. I'm like, oh, this is pretty average, and then the next thing you know, it's blossomed. I know with crossing clown, all I can say to people, you can never judge a clown. I mean, I've hatched a few, and I've gone, oh, it just looks pretty standard. They hatch very. looking very much like a normal, with like a junglish pattern most of the time. And
Right.
there was this one I was like, man, this is just going to be like a normal. And oh my god, I don't know whether you've recognised the one I've posted. It's like got these lavender bandings, and there's just something special about it. So yeah, I always say to people as well in breeding, hold back your geckos as long as you can, because of then that true beauty comes out. And I see so many people, they hatch a gecko, they get it to 15, 18 grams. I used to be a courier driver as well in the UK. I used to deliver and pick up people's reptiles and deliver it to them. So I used to see geckos, and I used to see things, and I used to be like, I can see the potential in that, do you know? And this person might just think, oh, it's just a tangerine tremper, 60 pounds or whatever, and that's a little gem. So I always say to people, hold on as long as you can, because the true beauty comes out.
And sometimes I've heard this advice from this guy, Matt Baronic, and he said, "You're breeding, it's the genetics. That's what's on the inside. You don't see. It's not always on the outside." Right? I know it's a great start to have a beautiful gecko to start, but if you're trying to do something with the genetics, and sometimes I've had people like turn away geckos because it doesn't look good to them. But then, like, I tell them, like, you have to get it. The genetics in this is amazing, especially like you said, if it's got crown in it, you never know what you're going to get. It's the colors of the rainbow.
Yeah, this is what I love about leopard geckos. You never know what you're going to get. What is your most enjoyable moment / memorable moment of 2021 breeding wise?
Oh, breeding wise, I would say, despite having a lot of pairings, um, God, the one that really stood out for me will be my bolt stripes with firebolt. It really can be the best of both worlds, where got the colors of the firebolt and the stripes of a bolt stripe. So I got a number of those that came out that way. So they looked amazing, because sometimes the firebolt have the color but without the bold markings. So but I would say the best moment was picking up some breeders for next year. This season was, like I said, I did a lot of pairings, but it was about building stock, what I want to do in the future, and I picked up a lot of geckos. So, like I said earlier, I picked up a pair of red diamonds. I picked up a pair of red tangerine tornadoes. And, I have 3 pairs I'm going to get. I've already got them on reserve. They're coming side of the pond, so that's my hint in what I'm getting. So as a breeder, not necessarily results, because, like I said, I'm only 3 years in, and I don't think I've taken things far enough. Yes, it's exciting, but I'm looking at the big picture, that I don't need to celebrate anything big right now, because bigger things are to come down the line. So that's what I've been doing this year, is building breeders, collecting various morphs to get set for future projects.
Definitely. Do you? I know I can tell you're very passionate about your teaching and stuff, but do you ever look at your geckos and think to yourself that maybe when you do step down from being a teacher or whatever, that you would consider having the reptiles not as a job almost, because I know you enjoy it, but that would be something you'd be spending the majority of your time doing? If that makes sense. Like that will almost be your job while you finish doing your teacher stuff.
Yeah, yeah. I would say if I could retire today, I would retire today, and I wouldn't have my list will still be plenty long of to do what I want to do. And I've actually, what's funny is I've already thought about that. I'm 47 years old, and I say, like, if I keep doing in about 12, 13 years, I'm hitting 60. Where would I be in the breeding? And I'm thinking, I'm looking at other people who have been in the business for over 10 years, or the hobby for over 10 years, and I'm like, where would I be? And at the same time, I'm also thinking, like, can I really go vacation with a wife? Can we? Because I can't leave. Who's going to take care of the babies? That it's like, oh man, is she going to get mad? can't have a real vacation because we can only go somewhere for 2 or 3 days and we got to be back. But I do see this as something that I want to keep going. So to somebody, I wouldn't say it'll keep me busy enough like a job, but I've got like I said, this is probably my fourth midlife crisis. So I've got other things on back burners going. I'll be able to, ever since I started coaching tennis, I how to play tennis like I have. I used to run the marathon, so I want to get back into running. I picked up the guitar about 15 years ago, or actually almost 15 or 16 years ago. I started playing it, and then once I got married with a wife and the kid came out, and it's like, can't make so much noise, so I haven't been able to play as much. I used to work out in the weight room, the gym, and do personal training. So there are a number of things, that I would say these are all things that I try to do. I don't do them as often. So whenever I retire from teaching, I can get to these other hobbies and passions, and Leopard Gecko will still be around for me.
You seem like one of them guys that just love to be busy. I bet whenever your wife sees you stop something, like let's say you had a hobby in cycling and you stop, I bet she's like, oh, what's he going to jump onto now?
I would say there's still two more, and she knows she makes fun of me that I'm like the guy with 10 jobs because I'm doing all these different things. But there's still two more, and I'm not sure about one of them, which is skateboarding. These are, and I think all these things I have, like say midlife crisis, or things I really couldn't do or didn't get to do as a kid, and then say, I'm an adult, I have the money, I have resources, I don't need to be old, I can live life and enjoy all those things I didn't get to do. But skateboarding, but all the guys who are good go through broken bones, and I don't know if I want to go through broken bones at this age. And it's hard enough when you're 8 and having aching knees, having broken. Surfing will be the other one that I've thought a lot about. So
all I say is fair play to you, mate. All I say is fair play, because you never know what's going to happen tomorrow.
Right.
So if you want to do surfing in Australia in the tiger sharks run water, you do that.
Definitely. Like you said, life is short, and there's it's one of those phrases that people say, and they've taken it from various disciplines, but one is, I tell my students, don't live to be alive, be alive to live, right? So if you're alive to live, then you can look for things to do and live an enjoyable life with lots of things with passion. So look to live, right? That's what life is about. So this is sort of why I do leopard gecko breeding too. It's just one more thing to add to the list, or they call bucket list, things to do to your living.
Definitely. I don't know if you can hear all the fireworks going on, but it's actually New Year's right now for me. So I want to say Happy New Year's to everyone.
Happy New Year's. You're in England,
yeah,
right?
In England, it's just hit 12. All the fireworks are going crazy. We got London on the TV right now. All the fireworks are going crazy on the London TV. It's just hope we have a better year this year, because we've all had a dreadful year with COVID and everything.
Yeah, you told me you guys have just had a fourth shutdown. So, God, that's tough. I know we had ours, and ever since things opened up and vaccinations going out there, Dave, we really haven't had the shutdown. We just had restrictions, but they put things going. But man, I know it's tough on the shutdown to not be things and just be away from people. But to be away is even more challenging.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a tricky situation. I mean, to try and you know, I'm vaccinated. When I go to shops, I put a mask on, and I know you won't be able to. Like we said earlier, with the negativity, you're always going to have a couple of bad eggs, and unfortunately, with this COVID, there is just bad eggs, and it's just we just got to just keep going forward, and hopefully the leopard geckos don't suffer from it. So I haven't spent so much time in my leopard gecko room these past couple of years than I ever have before. And like the social media, I've got a bit more time for social media, because that's a job in itself with this. You would know as well, Wally. Spending the time on your social media, going through your messages, when you, like you said earlier, with the algorithm, you've got to post at certain times a day, and you've got to keep on top of it. Otherwise, you drop back down. So yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it was sort of because of COVID that I really this year got so busy into breeding because in America, if you're not aware, because of all the COVIDs were on shutdown, everybody did homeschooling or online or distance learning, where we just had to open up a Zoom and do some presentations, and the kids were at home. So I didn't. There was a lot more time left for me to that not having to go into work and do the long days, and with the extra time, that sort of pushed me more in my breeding and doing more. But then this school year in September, having to go back full time, was like, whoops, I got so busy, so I had to readjust. But yeah, it was sort of pushed me forward even further now. And how do you pull back a bit and that's what I mean about life, and how life will come at you in different ways, and you have to make the adjustments to still push forward.
Definitely. I do think COVID has brought people together a bit more than normal. I mean, like my mum and my parents' street, they all talk to each other now. They never used to speak to each other before, because when we had that first lockdown, they set up like a chat where if anyone needed milk, instead of us all going, I can go and get everyone's milk, kind of thing. So, and same with the breeding. I haven't spoke to so many people in the hobby than I have before that I had this year. Do you know what I mean? And I started in 2016. I got the Instagram when it sort of first came about. So I've always sort of been on the social medias and stuff. And this year has for sure been the year I feel like everyone's sort of coming together and talking more. People are more, a few years back, people would be a bit more inclined, oh, can I message Elite Geckos? Where people now are messaging like, hey man, I've just seen you posted a gecko, and then want to talk about it. So that's what the good plus side to COVID, I guess.
Yeah, certainly, because that's how I was able to meet, talk to a whole bunch of people, and then, like I said, going back to work, the first thing I noticed is I just don't have the time to talk to people anymore, and that sort of changed. So, yeah, you're right. That's the one thing about COVID is I think it's people finally realize they miss each other and start talking to each other.
Definitely. Anyway, Wally, I think we'll call that an episode for now. Time's flown, an hour's flown past so quick. But the thing is, with these short episodes, that means we can do part two. So part two will be happening next year.
Oh. All right. Awesome.
Do you want to let people know
George,
where to find you and stuff like that, Wally?
Right now, just on Instagram, Hard Rock Leopard Geckos. I am in the works to start up a website, so that'll come sometime in the near future. And then I'm also on Morph Market. So, however you want to reach me, it's all
brilliant. I really appreciate you coming on, mate. You give you're a person I know people will feel warm to come and approach you to ask advice. You just have that sort of feel to you. Do you know what I mean? I mean, if you was my teacher, I would be a lot smarter by now. Because I think you're awesome. For a teacher as well, you have that sort of like, if I was a student, you'd be the teacher. I could say, oh, sir, like this has happened. Do you know what I mean? That's how you sort of come across. So a big thanks. And I wish next year is going to be a great year. Like I said, we'll do another episode for sure. We've still got so many questions to answer. So we'll definitely do part two next year when you're free for sure, mate.
All right. Awesome. Happy New Year's, George.
And you, mate. And you. Everyone, make sure you follow him. As always, this goes on YouTube. our podcast and everything. But be sure to follow Hard Rock Leopard Geckos. Fantastic geckos, fantastic guy. I just appreciate him being on. And as always, Happy New Year, everyone.
Hey, thank you, George. Happy New Year's, everybody.
Thank you, Wally.